Are you a leader in customer success, pre-sales, professional services, support? Do you work behind the scenes and roll up your sleeves to make sure that customers are happy? Renew. Then this is for you. Welcome to the GSD Podcast. Welcome to the GSD Podcast. Getting it done. Services, success, and software. We'll talk with the pros that have been in the trenches, getting service teams off the ground, launching new types of groups to service customers, or running agencies that don't have a product attached to it. For the pros, by the pros. This is the GSD Podcast, and this is your host, Jeff Kushmerek.
All right. Thanks for joining me here on the podcast. This is Jeff, and this is one of my probably favorite episodes to go over, just because Dave and I joke around a lot with each other all the time on a weekly basis. Slightly frenemies and competitive, but not really with our businesses. And we worked for a long time together and just have seen lots and lots of stuff. So I will warn you also. This one's going to get the explicit warning. As Kramer likes to say, we let the expletives fly a little bit. So I don't think you would torture your children by putting this podcast on them, around them anyways, but fair warning on that one. And also, if you're faint at heart and don't like to think about certain topics that your grandparents may have engaged in, when you hear me ask Dave about movies, you should probably just stop and delete the episode from your library. The other thing, anybody that's in sales, and they wind up hearing this, I would love your feedback. Would love to chat with you on the podcast because this is a topic that just is new for me and challenging, and finding out new things every day. So would love to hear your feedback. And here is Dave. This computer. Let's see how that goes. All right. I think we're recording, Dave. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I did. You know what? I just saw you sign in as David Witting, and I've never in my life called you David. Is that something you hate me for? Is that why you hate me?
No, that is one of the reasons I hate you. That is true. Yes. No, David is typically reserved for my mother.
Yeah, it's same exactly. When you're in trouble, you know.
Exactly.
You found a pack of Marlboro Reds underneath your pillowcase.
Exactly. Some biker magazines, right? Exactly. That's exactly right. But man, it's good to talk to you, Jeff. Like, this is really exciting.
I'm just glad I got an hour of your time. I'm besides myself.
I will say, and I'm not blowing smoke, I listened to your Elia. Like, obviously, I know Eric, and I thought that was a lot of fun, and
yeah,
listening to it. I didn't know the fresh tilled soil guy personally.
Okay.
Richard. And I thought that was really insightful. Like, you've been putting out great content.
Oh, thank you.
In terms of good stories, but also like helpful stuff. So
I appreciate it. I just like how everybody approaches the same situations differently. Why? Because before I was like, oh, it's like 3 success people in a row, but everybody does it differently, which is just it's great. So I really appreciate it. So
great. Cool.
So for people that don't know, David and I worked at Bright Cove together, and then you went to Localytics, and now we're in a frenemy type situation, which is like me and 5 other people. But I think we work out fine. But where you have actually, why don't you describe it? Because you guys had an event recently.
Sure.
And so I would love to hear like the movement from Localytics to the move into the dark side of professional services. Because you were an account guy before that, right?
That's right. So like when you and I worked at Bright Cove, you ran services, and I had sort of everything post-sale, like customer success, account management, et cetera. And so like, I don't think either of you neither of us would consider ourselves sales guys,
No.
but at all. But like we've been around it and we've gone through all the training and like, have been involved with a bunch of sales and like you
Mm-hmm.
sort of left the world of SaaS and went into services full time. And it was one of those things where my partners had made the jump before me, Ashley, Jesse, and Josh.
Yep.
And I was supposed to do the jump post Brightcove, but I chickened out. And so I went to Localix instead.
Which was just blowing up at the time, right? So let's be clear, like
Localix,
very good opportunity.
The thing was going to be huge, which didn't occur. And so I stayed at Localix for a respectable amount of time. So it didn't look, horrible on my LinkedIn profile. And then it was just like, I got to get the hell out of here. And I remember having a conversation with my wife. I had two like SaaS customer success things lined up. Okay. One was like a really big company and one was another startup. I remember like laying in bed with her and I was like, I could do these two things.
Dave, this is a PG rated podcast.
Yeah, I apologize. Okay. I could stay on this career path and like the benefits will be good. She's a stay-at-home mom. Or I could do this completely crackpot idea with my friends and just do the services company and there will be no salary, no healthcare benefits.
You're telling the kids like enjoy the American Girl dolls because you're not going to see anything else for a little while, right?
Dude, totally. It was like seriously, Jeff, no joke. I was like, I have 2 months pad from local. Like I'm quitting Localytics. I had like enough of a pad. I'm like, I'm going to give this 2 months. And if it doesn't work, I'll go find
hello, my name is David.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it was risky. But as you know, because you know my partners and have worked with them, like, there was a lot of faith in Josh and the Strebs.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I jumped and no regrets and, joined professional services and been doing it for building an agency for 3.5 years. And and we recently sold it.
It's amazing. It's good stuff.
Company. So happy to talk about any of that.
No, which is great. I wanted to really chat about the sales aspect because you and I, it's what we do, right? We call each other. I'm like, is that working? And you're like, no, that doesn't work. And then is this working? I'm like, no, that doesn't work. And I'm like, I try that, so we've just been bouncing back. But you did bring up something that was something that I've kind of kept in my head is that, we were always paired on these large deals with the heavy hitting sales guys, right? So, or people, sorry, because there was females in there as well too. So, so we learned a lot from like the likes of like G Gooder and, all those guys of like, this is how deals happen. But we weren't exposed. I wasn't exposed to that like 0% through 15% world of things, right? Like, the origination of deals. And we've kind of chatted back and forth about how to do that. And you've been relying a lot on network, right? Like it's just word of mouth and network.
True. I think you and I both at Brightcove, to your point, like prior to that, I had a low opinion of salespeople.
Yeah.
Right? Like I sort of had a traditional marketer opinion, like sales guys are lazy, sales guys are dumb, sales guys are a hot mess, blah, blah, blah. And I think Brightcove was the first time where like I really was taught like, what is the SaaS playbook?
Mm-hmm.
So that was, and I know you were too. And so like, that was super interesting. And it was also the first time where I realized like, wow, there are a lot of true sales professionals like Eric Rapp or Steve Prococo or Josh Norman.
Oh,
Bones, right. Or whatever, that are like, these guys are excellent and like they're real craftsmen. And, like it was the first time I got an appreciation for how hard sales is.
Oh, yeah.
And how much like skill and talent goes into it that I didn't have prior. Right. And so that was a real eye opener.
Did you ever get exposed to Josh Norman's like lucid chart? Like,
oh my God. Yeah.
I see when I close my eyes sometimes.
I have never seen. So for listeners, Josh had this
killer
for big accounts. He had this way of sort of mapping out the organization and looking at the coverage within the organization and sort of like gauging the temperature of like, this person is the influencer, these people, or this person's the decision maker, these are the influencers, and like, are they a detractor? Are they a champion? Are they neutral? And like, how do you move folks to those? And he would literally fill a conference room with like Post-it notes of like the org chart and the company coverage. And it was like a general,
Yeah. But it's so true though. It's like hey, that's professional. How about that? I have a landline and I will always have a landline.
Pizza coming?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we can get into remote working a little bit, but I'm sure there's going to be 4 girls running around here in a minute and the lawnmower just stopped. But he would go through that. And, as I learned later when I was kind of ramping up on how to sell, he's getting everybody on our side so that even if they don't have a vote, they've got a voice, because somebody's going to make the decision, but they don't want to hear about it from the person that complained about it the whole time through, right? That whole thing.
Exactly right. That's exactly. There was not only that, but also like bringing to bear all the resources of your organization that's trying to land this deal. That to me was equally impressive.
Yeah, it's true.
Josh is not shy about like, you're going to do these 3 things for this person because, in aggregate, this will help us win this deal. I mean, he is a master.
Yeah. And I took some of that. I was using that stuff like yesterday because, you get on the phone and, you and I, this could be a whole thing that we didn't even put on the Google Doc, but like, I'm like talking to the dev people, I'm like, you want to win projects, right? Like you realize they pay our salaries. You're like, correct? Like, do you want to complain about like how this might have some risk or, it's like, that never happens with you, I'm sure. Right. So
no, never. No.
Everybody's like, you're just going to just send the SOW over. Right. So,
yeah. Right. Yeah. That's exactly what happens. But yeah, I mean, what's been interesting, I will say, you and I both learned the SaaS playbook. There are a bunch of things in that SaaS playbook that work for services.
Like, let's go through that because I know we actually did some work.
Yeah,
which is, if anybody knew us, that's surprising. But we did some work getting ready for this.
That's right. Well, come on. I mean, this is an important podcast, dude. We gotta,
I mean, so just so we're clear, and so everybody knows, Dave and I are basically like managing directors, which is you're responsible for many things, but one of them is the customer success of existing customers. Use the definition in the name, and also new business acquisition and many other things like tool. So we need to become salespeople. We're not constantly hunting down deals all day long, every day, but that's how we gain new customers, grow. Projects eventually have end lives, and we hire people to do them, and we want them to have other projects to work on after that. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Cool. So what do you want to, where would you like to start?
So what we said, we both came from the SaaS world and went to selling services and how it's different. And so we're going to kind of get into the whole differences between what everybody's doing in the SaaS world. And I think we were part of the original wave of that. And how's it different from what we're doing now, custom bespoke projects and whatnot?
Yeah. I'm going to hit 2 things here, which struck me. Like the first is, in the SaaS world, oftentimes profitability is not the priority, right? Like HubSpot is sort of famous for this. Like it's, in many cases, it's like, look, it's a land grab. We're trying to be the best catering platform in the world, or we're going to be the best marketing platform in the world. And like, we just want to get as many people paying a small amount as possible and have just like get them all in the door, and we'll figure out that classic line of, we'll just turn on profitability later.
Oh, you're right.
A lot of SaaS is sort of just operating in like, get as many people as possible, show high user growth, and don't sweat margin. Whereas services is obviously,
which by the way is great for what their audience they're trying to please, which is their investors, whether it be going to the public markets or be going to their VCs.
Totally. And you and I both know, salty old men, that like that whole like we can flip on profitability at any time is a complete line of malarkey. Like that is
30% of the workforce. It's
okay, that's great. We'll just turn on that switch later. But anyway, but like that was a distinct change, right? Like it wasn't the land grab. It wasn't that thing. It was just like, we're going to get in a bunch of money and hope that we have a decent margin on these projects overall, right? Like that's fundamental shit.
Yep.
I think, I think for me also, SaaS has a very well-developed playbook for both marketing and sales. Like there are very well-defined roles. There are very well-defined things that people do. There is very well-defined funnel math, right?
Yes.
Like everyone is basically following the same model. And I do think the services model is leaner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you can do a leaner version of SaaS for a services company, which I think a lot of folks do.
Yep.
I also have a hunch, which we can talk about later, that there might even be a completely different playbook for services.
I can't wait. I'm writing a little asterisk down on my piece.
I know. It's such a half-baked
Dave crackpot.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Which is to me kind of right next to walking around with the sandwich board around.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely sandwich board material. But I am developing an idea, like you could do a derivative of the SaaS playbook, which will work.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a theory that there's a whole nother playbook that no one has told us about that all. But
these are the secrets that the experts are withholding from us unless we pay $297 a month, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, if you sign up for my program, Jeff. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I think those are two marked differences. Maybe a third is I do think sort of the investment in the oversight is leaner, right? Like I remember being at Localytics and it's like, we got to build our marketing engine, we got to build our sales engine, blah, blah, blah. Like there was all this heavy investment in content marketing, which I know you've explored in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That very heavy investment to do that land grab. I don't think you have to have that same level of investment for services. I don't know if you would agree.
TBD did tons of the content and the generation, at Gennaro.
Yep.
Getting ready for a smaller version of that, not as much. The content heavy stuff, it's great to look smart and have somebody pump it out there. I think what I like it if you're proving that you're knowledgeable in your domain and your space, because then you have this content that's out there and everything. I do believe it's different than the SaaS model where it's like, join our webinar and we're going to have 5 experts from Harvard and they're going to talk about blah, blah, blah. Right. So I don't think it needs that total investment. I don't even know if you need a full-time marketer. I would love for to find a consortium that could just be like, they're going to have a person that does content for you and a person that does this for you in social marketing and things like that. But it's hard because they don't know your company. So I'm rambling a little bit. I did base some of this off of your Alexa strategy, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's funny that worked. So for folks listening, we did a mini content program that definitely worked. We basically said at one point, we said, we want to become known for doing Alexa skills because 1, we think it's kind of fun. 2, we need something that kind of sounds sexy to make it look like we're innovative, right? And 3, it's an emerging market. We think there might be some money there. So let's give it a shot. And so we wrote this white paper that was like, the 7 secrets for building your own thing, something like that. We shot a video. We did a landing page.
Was that Branson? Sorry, it's Brandon. His nickname was Branson. And
yeah, Brandon Askoff. Absolutely. Brandon, good looking guy, stuck him in front of the camera.
He's a boy band dream right there, that guy.
Yeah.
You can tell him when you see him, by the way, that I've traded in my French cuffs for sweatpants these days.
Let me tell you, Jeff Kushmerek stories between Jesse, myself, and Brandon, right? But anyway, so we did a light amount, right? Here's a white paper, here's a video, here's a simple landing page with a call to action to reach out, and then let's spend, I think we spent $5,000 on let's plug the crap out of this.
Yeah, no, $5,000's good. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, I think we're paying $10K a week for LinkedIn ads at a place not to be named here. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, here's what worked. So we put the white paper on Product Hunt, and like it's funny. We did it.
So hip.
Yeah, we did a bunch of promotion around like, hey, if you want to, and this is like 2 years ago now.
Did you cross-reference that with a Medium article too?
No, I don't think we.
I know you hate me so much right now.
I know we ran out of steam on that. I think I don't know, but we just basically plugged in Medium of like, you want to build one of these stupid things, like here's how to do it. So we gave to the community of like, here's everything we've learned, which was basically a rewrite of Amazon's documentation, really. And then we're like, and we're freaking experts, even though we had really done jack shit at that point, and so we're geniuses. Here's a rewritten Amazon documentation white paper on product, which we're going to plug. Remember, we plugged it on Reddit, which gave us a lot of leads, which was really weird.
Kidding.
Yeah, I know. Go figure, right? It really worked. And then we had a landing page with a reasonably well-produced video, which was like $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to you, Jeff, we're still getting leads off that.
It's amazing. It's a beautiful world.
But
you're like 89 when I talked to you. But here's the but: the conversion rate on them.
Okay, no, here's the but. So, like, literally, we are still getting. It's like 2 years later, we're still getting leads off that stupid thing. 2 buts. One, very low conversion on the leads. Like, less than 1%, like very low conversion. 2, those never became lucrative, right? Like,
yeah, I just read an article. I just cut you off. I'm the worst. Go ahead. Never became lucrative. Yep.
Basically, it's less than 1% of our revenue. So like we make money off them, but it's small potatoes. They're short projects. They're fun, but like it never, like users don't really use them. Discoverability is an issue. Like it's just dabbly stuff. So it was fun. It was good. It got us an Amazon partnership, which was super valuable.
Yep.
But like from a money perspective, that particular category wasn't super lucrative.
Yeah, and I hear you. I think that you could definitely put this into the category of domain expertise. We're experts. We're cool. We're hip. We know what we're doing. And at that time, everybody needed an Alexa strategy. So it's a smart move, right? That was like, oh my God, we need to. What if I needed to buy a new bolt for my ship? I just need to tell Alexa to buy me this part. Everything will work out.
Totally. Yeah. So I don't know. It was good. Like it was totally worth every penny, and it worked. And that type of like marketing strategy where like we're not going to do this big content marketing heavy lift. It's like these 2 discrete things. We went real like down and dirty, like dropping it into Reddit forums and plugging it on Product Hunt with a simple landing page, and that level of effort. And it was like $5,000.
Yeah, so it seems like on that strategy, you were going for developer, like high fives, right? Like developer credentials or.
Correct. That's right. So like we weren't selling to his CTO, we weren't selling to his CIO. That was like bottoms up. People are thinking about this. If they need help, they're going to come to us, and they'll do, a small deal with us to get it built, and that worked.
Yep.
Bottoms up, though.
Yep. So on that note, lead comes in, email, you get your form, fill it out. Lead comes in. Were you emailing all these people? Did you have, this gets into like the mechanics and let's say I try and have this podcast be about like, oh crap, I'm going to actually have to do some of this stuff. Like, so were you doing it? Did you have an intern doing these types of things?
Yeah. I'll tell you. So the short, I'm going to give you a short answer, a long answer. The short answer is, it was me and Jesse who followed up.
Yep.
Because we were pretty small, and we could.
Well, I'm still doing. Yeah, I meant doing these things still. I don't mind it at all. So
yeah. It was us, and like to generate the content, we just use contractors. We got this mad Russian guy that if anyone reaches out to me, I'll
hopefully Ukrainian, not actually Russian, right? So
well, he was like our PR. He figured out how to get us to the top of Product Hunt and into the right GitHub spots.
Oh, cool.
He's great. And then we used just a contract writer to write the thing, and then all the follow up was just me and Jesse. Like that was
Yeah, that's the gig. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I will say, it's so funny. I'll tell you where I'm torn. Where I just came from, we had tons of content going out. We had a sales intelligence tool, where we would be doing outbound, basically. Yeah. Did you have a question there? I don't mind answering.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Okay, yeah. So creating lists. These are the demos that we're going after. Like for example, not going after the Fortune 2000, right? Because everybody's in those. So like, well, what's the bucket that we're going after here? And then we had two guys banging the phones and sending emails.
Yeah.
Probably, one of them's awesome and he's super optimistic and everything like that, but their conversion rate was like terrible. Like anywhere else, any product company, SaaS-based product company, these guys would have been fired just because of conversion. But I heard them all day long, pitching all day long on the phone, and they were saying exactly like it was a good message. I will tell you this though, when they booked a meeting, very high ROI, very high match rate, big projects too. So would I go off and hire another one again right now? I'm like, I don't know. Like, would I find a service that maybe did that? I don't know. So the model needs to be kind of thought about a little bit as well. And some of that gets into marketing and finding like a real demand gen person who's an expert to get some things off and stuff like that.
I agree. I will say, so we have done cold outbound outreach. Like we have tried like the traditional SaaS, like we're gonna send out a bunch of emails. We're gonna put them on these drip campaigns. One percentage are gonna come through, blah, blah, blah. So we've done that. We've done that both in turn. Like I have physically done that myself. And we've hired some contract help to do that. We've done it twice. We did it when we first started, and then we did it when we opened an office in New York and we wanted to kind of help grow that business. And in both times we failed miserably.
Like it's tough. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
It was really hard. It didn't work. And so we just stopped.
So you know what my current theory on this is? It's a volume game. And you really need to find a way to crank up the volume. And some of that might need to be automated because you can't, it's a wrong statement to say there's nobody sitting around just waiting for a project to happen. That's incorrect. I knew I'm just at a social event last week and it was like, oh my God, you have somebody that can help me out with X? I'm like, yeah, I'm like in a real bind. I'm like, oh yeah. So they're out there, but there are not too many of them. So you have to really crank up the volume on them. So we're exploring some stuff through software where we might be able to automate some of that so that we don't have, really depressed people, making, 40 outreaches a day and not hearing back from people for weeks. So,
that makes sense. And I agree with you. Like it is a volume game. You're absolutely right. And so if you can figure out smart ways to scale that, that makes sense. I will tell you that we did try, specific to New York, we tried one of those contract services that were like basically like appointment setting. Like we said, we want to talk to
so outsourced BDRs basically, right?
Exactly. Outsourced business development rep. Exactly. And it's funny, like that was a failure, but what was interesting is that they did get us meetings with like good people at the right level. But I swear to you, and I don't have any facts to prove this up, but I swear the way they got the meetings was probably something like, if you do this half-hour call, we'll give you $100 Amazon gift.
No,
because the people we talked to were like, that was the right role in the right organization, and they have no need or interest. They were just willing to do a briefing call.
So they can get their credit.
I swear these.
Oh yeah, I've seen that because BDRs do that. SDRs, when they're in a little bit of a pinch and they need to get their numbers up, buddies help them out and stuff like that. I've seen it. I've been exposed to it. So I think we can move on for that one. But I do want to talk about one thing that you said the other day when we were on the phone, and I wanted to get some more clarity on it. Which is when we were talking. No, it's not that. It's not in that whole conversation. That was a good one. we were talking about the selling aspect, and you said something to the lines of they stay on the project throughout. And I was like, what does that mean? Do you have other people selling things and they become like the project manager? Or did I get that right? Like,
yeah. So this is part where we're edging into crackpot territory.
Okay.
But I'll give you the high level. Basically, we intentionally, like, we thought about, and by me and my three partners, Josh, Ashley, and Jesse, like, we sat down and we talked about, like, how were we going to do sales? And we basically were like, look, we believe that people are going to buy they're going to hire an agency like they hire a plumber.
Mm-hmm.
That basically there will be a point where they need help. They will go online and do a bunch of searching,
Mm-hmm.
like, who's in my area, who's on Clutch, or, which is the Angie's list, right, or whatever. And then they're going to pick 3 people to reach out to get quotes. And so we just want to make sure that we are one of those 3 people they reach out to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, like, that was the initial sales strategy. And as we talked about sales strategy, we talked about, like, one of the things, and I was very sensitive to this. One of the things that's always really hard is the handoff.
Yep. That's right. This is now I know what you're getting into.
Yeah. So from sales to post sales.
At all. Yeah.
Right. So sales to post sales is a hard handoff, and, like, clients can feel like, it was sort of a bait and switch, or the sales guy said a bunch of stuff that wasn't accurate, or that, there's tension there, like, inherently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you and I, Jeff, because we were post sales at SaaS companies, like, we really felt that tension.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we said was, like, you know what? We're actually not going to do salespeople as a hire. We're going to create a role called the exec sponsor, which is like more of a traditional account manager role. And the exec sponsor to start is going to be Josh, Jesse, Ashley, and Dave. And now we've had more people into this role, where basically when the lead comes in, they're going to answer the lead. Mm-hmm. They're going to develop the opportunity. And when it's won, they're just going to stay on and see that project through. So, like, they're never going to pass it off. And at the time, we were like, that sounds great, and it solves the handoff problem, but it'll never scale properly, right? And, like, what we've actually found is it doesn't scale as well as the other model, but it still scales pretty well.
Yep.
And you can actually do it that way, and it's okay. So,
so that was our model where I came from.
Cool.
Yeah, until the big turn of the year, where basically they just, like, wanted me to sell and turn into a rep, and brought in somebody like VP of customer success, very well qualified person and whatnot. I just didn't like the model. And customers were still reaching out and like, well, when do we reach out to you? And it's like, well, no, we talk like monthly. It just it wasn't smooth. It was, did you hear about this detail? I'm like, no, I didn't. So as that exec sponsor, you don't want to hear about the weekly day in and day out stuff, because, that can weigh on you and things kind of resolve. And do you really need to know that, like, this computer failed, all that crap. Right. So I don't know. That is also the model I'm working in now again, which is I do the lead, go off, make the relationship, get the infrastructure underneath to deliver, but still leading and doing all the customer success activities.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, the good thing is that both are equally valid, right? It's just...
And your projects are how long now? Because you said they're shorter. So what's your average project length?
So about half of our business is like discrete projects that have a beginning, middle, and an end. And the other half of the business is what we call embedded teams, which is sort of a polite way of saying staff augmentation. And so
I like to say adjunct product teams.
Yeah. I mean, there is some legitimate nuance there, but, like, for the sake of clarity, the average length of our project is like 4 months.
Okay.
But what's interesting, and this is going to sound like boasting, but I think it's actually an important point. We have 100% repeat business. Like, so like we'll do a discrete project, even if it's like an embedded team, and it'll go for like 4 months, and then that'll wrap up, and then there'll be another set of work to do, or like someone else that needs help. And that's been a big part of our growth strategy.
No, that's great. And you are completely boasting, which is great.
I am, but well, yeah.
So
I love how you're like, that's great. You're still there. Right. All right. Yeah. All right. That's fair.
You'd think as I get closer to my old age and retirement that it would...
Yes. And you are rapidly aging.
There's products for everything, David. It's amazing. I'll be like Ted Williams in a cryo chamber somewhere. But so let's do this. If we still have people listening and not sick of my back.
No one's listening to this stupid thing. But yeah, just keep going.
No, you'd be surprised actually.
Maybe Mark Holland is still listening.
Good point. No, so let's get into your crazy crackpot idea, because you're just bursting at the seams. And I love how you're in now twice this week. You've been like, I can't really talk about this, but I just can't wait to talk about this.
Dude, I'm obsessing about it.
You're like Beautiful Mind at home, right? You've got all the
totally just like sticky notes, like arrows going up. Yeah. So
Brightcove logo.
I got recently set off because a former friend of ours, Kristen Cronin, who went out maternity leave, wrote a note on LinkedIn where she was like, I went on maternity leave. I had a very detailed out of office, and yet still I have all these BDRs like pounding my inbox to schedule calls while I'm out on maternity. Like, when did we lose the ability to actually like, read things and digest them, right?
Yeah.
And so
she's shocked that 22-year-old guys who are getting forced to make 40 to 50 calls a day.
Right. Exactly. She and I, we were just chit-chatting.
She's great. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
She's great. And like she had made the point, and I've been thinking about this for a while. She was just like, there's a discrete SaaS model. Everybody does it. But like, maybe there's another way to do it. Like maybe there is. And I'm such a sucker for that. And so I started thinking about like the way we had done it here and like specific to sales. And I know you're going to call bullshit on like 90% of this, which is
I was just wondering if when you two were sitting there chatting, somebody just said, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Totally. But like, all right, so here's my stupid thinking. I was like, all right, this is from Paul Getz. Paul Getz had made a comment for me. He's
excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, right. Just threw up in your mouth. He's a senior sales guy, really smart, doing it for years. He basically had said to me at one point, he was like, everyone buys like a consumer. And I think that is true, right? Mm-hmm. Like, think about the last thing you bought. You do a bunch of research, narrow it down to a couple of vendors, you reach out, you read their reviews, you reach out, and then, you kind of know what you want when you reach out. And so it's all about just making sure they remember your name when they're ready, right?
Yeah. I mean, so you heard, because you told me you listened to it, the podcast I did with Richard.
Yes.
Where I said, I heard the name. So when it was time for me to buy, I actually didn't even get three. I just went right to you guys.
Exactly. I that resonated with me. And I think we can all agree increasingly, like everyone buys in that same consumer. Like think about the last thing you bought and the steps you went through. I don't think it's any different from people that want to hire an agency. Like,
can I interrupt for one quick second? Yeah, because I will forget, even though I tried writing it down. So when I was at Virgin, we were SaaS and we were trying to figure out some internal metrics and some ways to go on things. And when we were getting this webinar ready, and we started interviewing all of these people that bought SaaS projects for there's a behavioral study that we were doing.
Yeah.
There was a massive number of people for buying technical products that hated the sales guy, but they bought the deal because they loved the sales engineer.
Oh, that's funny.
Or the / subject matter expert. Right?
Yeah.
Bring in the architect. So I would relate this to Gennaro when people dealt with me so they could get to their architects, right? Like like they fall in love with these people,
That's
subject
exactly.
matter expertise, and they're like, this is the person that's going to figure it all out for me.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think that's exactly right. I keep coming back to 3 principles in my brain. One is no one likes being sold. Like no one likes talking to the douchey sales guy, period.
Yep.
2, I believe everyone buys like a consumer. So no one likes being sold. Everyone buys like a consumer. And 3, which I think is what you just touched on, if you actually bring them something of value,
Yeah.
everything else works itself out.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether that's an SE that knows something that they don't, or that they trust, or like you do a really good job on the project. Like I fundamentally believe no one likes being sold. Everyone buys like a consumer. And if you bring them something of value, the money comes. Like I think those 3 things are true. And so like if you believe those things are actually true, then I don't think you actually need to hire a salesperson.
Your traditional salesperson.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So your traditional, like pleated pants, loafer, blue blazer guy walking the streets of Manhattan, that guy is not going to help you with any of those 3 things.
I haven't seen it work. No, I haven't seen it work.
So that's the piece where I'm like, if no one likes being sold, then you might as well not hire a traditional sales guy. Be super honest about your fees, be honest about your weaknesses, and be honest about what you're capable of delivering, because that's going to get you much further than hiding stuff or sort of, trying to like use the Sandler methodology on somebody.
Yeah.
Like, if everyone buys like,
I'm more of a blue sheet guy.
Okay, good. More of a Miller Hammond, right? But like, basically, if no one likes being sold, then put away all those stupid sales books and be honest and forthright, and don't hire that traditional salesperson. If everyone buys like a consumer, then rely on your network and recommendations and high quality work and reviews and directories that list agencies like yours. And
right.
it's all about bringing value and the money comes, then focus on customer satisfaction.
I agree 100%. However, where I see this not falling down, where I see some people not liking it, is if they have aggressive growth that they want to do.
I understand that, but
not calling you guys a lifestyle company.
Yeah, that is true. No, that you're 100% right. Like when you are in a SaaS land grab, or if you have aggressive growth targets, this model will not work. You are 100% right. But I will say, like, the numbers, and I'm not going to say it out loud.
Yep.
Grew incredibly fast and had a big exit in 3 years, far faster than any SaaS company on this model. So I can tell you, it worked, and it worked to a very
let's think about it. You've got, everybody there is good, honest people, top-notch development, and not pushing on the sales. So you get good word of mouth. Absolutely. And you guys had good networks too, right? So
that is an unfair advantage. And
no, I don't think it's
specific to Boston. But like Jesse made the comment, which was funny. Jesse, who's my partner, who leads, he and Ashley lead engineering. He was at one of our clients the other day, sitting in the hallway, and like, because he's the exec sponsor, because he's stuck around, because we did good work and they appreciate it, like he got a couple of $1 million worth of leads sitting in the hallway from people that were like, hey man, I got to talk to you about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And there is, the long story short is, if you have a board up your ass, or if you've got high growth targets, or you're doing the SaaS land grab, this model's not going to work.
Right.
But if you're an agency that is privately held and you're bootstrapped and blah, 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 like you can actually do this and it works just fine.
Yeah. No, I agree. And this is good for me because I just sort of just joined, and there's a whole bunch of customers who are kind of being managed from afar. And I'm like, well, no, I should just, go and their offices and this and that. It's like, no, everything's fine. I'm like, just trust me, right? Like that's not even sales sort of stuff, but like, how's everything going? You know, it's just, you build the relationships up. So, you know, that's good stuff. And I did know, since you wanted to get some tools and processes, you know, for the people who are, you know, sort of like, oh, what do I do? And things like that. You're using some very lightweight tools. We are as well too. We're using HubSpot CRM right now.
Oh, that's interesting. Yep. Yeah. So that's like sort of your customer system of record.
That is correct.
Yep. We went with Intercom because one of my partners is from HubSpot, Josh.
I gotcha.
I think he had some PSD.
Yeah.
So we're using Intercom, but HubSpot's great.
Yeah.
We use Base, which Zendesk bought and is now ZenCell.
Okay.
As our sales CRM. Do you guys?
So a sales CRM, like this is like tracking, you know, opportunities and contacts and things.
Yeah.
Like that.
We do a very lightweight Monday meeting. It is an hour, and we don't track sales activity. We don't track leads. We don't track any of that stuff. We literally just have a bunch of opportunities from prospecting to close won or lost.
Mm-hmm.
Every Monday, we just move them around. Like, is this moving forward? Is it moving, you know, is it sticking where it is? Is there new stuff? Is there stuff that we close out? And so we do that every Monday. We use Base, which is now ZenCell, like super lightweight. And we just use it for that. And that's been like perfect.
Yeah.
Pipedrive I've used too, which is like a lightweight sales.
Yeah, but it's from
Steve Oriola.
Yeah, Steve. I'm actually chatting with him soon. So yeah, great guy.
So
yep.
Anything Salesforce.
Yeah, no. Hey, listen, I hear you. It's just, yeah. I mean, not until you're huge and you need all those things. But I think even then, you can probably look around for alternatives like a Zoho and things like that. So
we just got bought, and they're switching us over to Salesforce, which makes sense because it's 1,000-person agency.
Yeah.
Us. And like getting back into that, I was just like, oh God, like,
oh, here's your lead. It's inside Pareto. You're like, no,
you're totally like, this is great. Integrated chatter tool. You know?
Oh, the chat. Oh my God. That's,
like,
what was it? What was that Elias thing that he hit? Yammer.
Oh,
it's up there with Yammer. Yeah.
Totally. But I mean, to their credit, like they've solved the whole like complicated quote to order. So, and they're like way ahead of us. So there's good reason to go. But like, it was a good reminder of like, I just hate Salesforce so much.
Yeah, no, I'm this is the first time I haven't used it in like 15 years, and I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Awesome.
So just a couple things, and I appreciate, because I know we've been going for a little bit, but you know, when I look at some of the companies in Boston that got kind of successful and bought and things like that, they all seem to be repping or like, we're the Sitecore integrator for healthcare and things like that. Are you guys doing any of that?
Yeah. So the partner thing is a sales thing. Yeah. We are not. And so here are two things.
We're not either. It's just hard. So
I'm curious to hear your opinion on this. So we have had one partnership with Amazon specific to audio skills that was helpful. And like the partner manager over there has become a personal friend, and she's great. But we've intentionally stayed away. There are plenty of agencies that partner with big platforms that drive a lot of business and it's worth it. What I have found, the only way that works, and I'm curious if you agree, the only way that works is, one, you have to have personal connections into that group, and two, you have to bring them leads.
Oh, you know what? I was trying to hold my breath, but this thing is the stupidest fucking thing. Sorry, gonna be explicit.
We're gonna have bombs. All right, good.
It drives me crazy, right? Yes. I might have talked about this before, but I've talked about it so much that I apologize if it's coming up again here. Okay, so why do companies? I was just about to use the recent one where this had happened, but like, hey, we're a product company. We have this huge, massive product, and we don't believe in building up a professional services team, or we're so busy that we need smart people like you to take this extra work from us. Sounds great. Okay, sign me up, right? No. we also need you to sell stuff for us. And I'm like, okay, what problem are you trying to solve? Because I heard you're trying to solve a fulfillment problem. Because let's remember, you're in an ARR world and you're not going to be able to recognize the revenue until the product is starting to be used. So are you trying to solve that problem, or are you trying to solve a pipeline problem? And the problem here, David, is that all of these partner guys with their khakis and oversized coats are on the sales team. They're all channel guys, and they try and do these relationships based out of a sales thing instead of the one time I worked, Alex Nason.
Yep. The best.
Just was trying to find us staff aug partners because Alex is amazing and he gets the game.
Yeah, totally.
Drop the mic. I'm out.
Yeah. Dude, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, we have a colleague who had a services business that was tied to a large partner that's been historically lucrative and is like looking to kind of develop new ones.
Yep.
And it is a long walk. And you have to have personal connections, and you have to bring them leads to get like that's just a fact. But all right, so let me ask you one closing question. Like, what's genuinely?
Yeah.
You and I have never done sales, but like we got trained up on all the bullshit methodologies, and we watched a bunch of real salespeople who know what they're doing, right?
Yep.
So pretend well enough. We've been both doing it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with the benefit of some hindsight, what do you think was the most important lesson you learned coming in to do sales for services?
Wow, that's a great question, and an off the cuff too. So I had the biggest lesson. So I don't think there's one to be. There's this overriding thing that keeps popping up in my head now, which is you just have to treat people normally and like people, and don't pressure and things like that.
Yeah,
that's one of them. You know, as you go from place to place, you see you're like, I'm in, not fixed but scale mode right now, and it's like, you need to appear, you can't look bumbling. You still need to be executionally fast, confident, not cocky, and just everything's clear and crisp. And those are the things that are striking for me, because there's lots of people out there, 2 developers, 3 developers, they get together to make something, and they're really great developers, and they don't grow or they don't scale. And maybe that's fine for them. But I found that you still have to grab these basics from sales, like work it kind of like a sales thing, because in the end you are selling something. Yeah. So actually, now that I'm talking this through, there's nothing wrong with it being sales, right?
Yeah.
Because now I'm getting to the number one thing, which is, I just talked to my buddy the other day about this. He was a CEO, and I was like, look, I hope you don't feel like I'm pitching you, but to be honest, I just want to help people. And if you're honest in your intentions, like, we're not jamming some product down somebody's throat because they filled out a form and said, I need a solution for my marketing cloud or whatever, right? So they're saying, like, I'm in a little bit of a pinch. I need something built. I don't have the staff. I have an initiative. We can't do it right. Can you help me? Yes, I would like to help you. So to be honest with you, all of the stuff that we've talked about for like last hour, I just want to find more people to help, because that makes me feel good. So
that makes sense. That's a great lesson. And I wanted to maybe add on to that. There was a couple of things that like were surprises along the way that I thought were helpful related to that. One is like at Bright Cove, like if you were in a sales thing and like some jerk in there was trying to like beat you up over some point, like I always felt like I would have to have if I didn't know something, I would have to try to like bullshit my way. And then like,
would this be a Chicago-based rep that didn't? Sorry, I'm not going to keep going.
Exactly. But it's funny. Like, maybe it's age, maybe it's being out of SaaS, maybe it's something else. But like the freedom of like when you're in a sales pitch, when someone's like, "Well, what about X, Y, and Z?" and you're like, "I don't have any idea. I don't have the answer, but I'll think about it." Like that freedom. Like I wasn't comfortable doing that prior. Like I felt like I had to have an answer for everything, in the comfort of like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Like I'll think about it. Like I was surprised at how much people respect that. I thought that would blow up deals, and I was surprised by how much they respect people.
This is not auto-generating stock candidate answers. Like, that's a great question.
It
We
gives
need
you
time to think about that one, you know?
right.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
never tackled that. Like just being comfortable with like your shortcomings in front of the client during the sales, I thought was a weakness, and it's actually a strength. And it took me a while to figure it out.
Well, so it's funny you said it, because my current CEO said something the other day where he said, I use my weaknesses as my strength, right? So you just kind of highlight those, but you know, you don't want to do it to a default point, but no, it's good stuff.
It's right. Can I tell you one other thing I learned, which is stupid and fun?
Yeah, of course.
You can only do this every once in a while. So there's that thing of like, always pretend like you don't need the work, which I think is true, which is part of your confidence.
You're right out of Eric. Like,
right.
yeah, we don't need this.
No, we're good.
I'm going to be like Don Draper and just walk out of the room.
Exactly. We had this one prospect come in New York. We had just opened up New York. We had Zip for business. We had this one prospect that was like a good meaty deal. And we met with the folks, and the prospect was tough. And you could just tell like this is going to be a really tough thing. And they were just beating the crap out of us in the sales process. And like you could tell like this is going to be an abusive relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We really need the work because we just started.
Yeah.
And there was a point where we watched the prospect treat their staff really poorly. And my partner, Josh, she berated them. Like,
was it like the Will Ferrell where he's got the pitchfork and he just keeps stabbing?
Yeah, she was like, who are you people? Like she berated these people in front of us and went out for drinks afterwards. We're still in the pre-sale. And they're like, we're not sure we want to go with you, blah, 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 blah. And so we left the meeting, and we were having drinks, and Josh and I were talking, and we were like, we can't do this. Like, it's not worth it, right? So we went back to him, and we were like, you know what? We don't like the way you treat your people. If you're like had head count and had no right walking away, they begged us to come back. They begged us. I couldn't believe it. And this happened twice where we turned something down, and like it automatically made us like the very thing they wanted more than anything else.
Oh, it's classic psychology. Yeah. Did you take it? Did you take it?
We didn't. Because at that point we had made I'll tell you why. We had made such a big deal internally. Like we are the type of company that turns down stuff because we don't want to work with assholes.
Right.
We had sort of already broadcast that internally. So when they begged us to come back, we were like, well, maybe we will do it. And then we were like, oh no, we already told everyone we were not going to do it. We can't undo that. But if we didn't broadcast it, we probably would have.
Oh yeah, you'd be blowing your nose with $100 bills, right? So yeah.
But anyway,
it's a good message though, and we can probably wrap this. So I know you're the big movie guy. Actually, by the way, I was thinking about it. I don't even know if you like music at all. Like we've never ever talked about this over years or whatever like that. So I was going to ask you, like, if I looked at your Spotify current playlist, am I going to see like Katy Perry or something like that?
No, the problem is that I share my Spotify playlist with my kids. And so my
I have the same issue.
2-year-old is like Kanye and
Cardi B,
like all this stuff, and I'm listening to like Tom Waits and the Pixies, right? Like
okay. It's all clear to me now. I got you.
Like I try to stay up, but the fact is I'm at an age where I'm slipping more and more into comfortable stuff that I used to listen to, and getting less new stuff.
Oh, I don't listen to anything new. Unless my kids are listening to it. Like, but
you know what I do? Here's a tip. I call up Doug Castoldi, who's a music aficionado. I'm like, what are you listening to? Because I'll just listen to that.
I'm listening to a My Morning Jacket concert from last week.
I just call Castoldi because he has way better taste than I do.
Yeah.
I follow what he does.
Actually, that's a good problem. I have an extra fish ticket. I wonder if he wants to go with me.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
Which would piss his wife off because she's the big fan. But Castoldi taking a no. Yeah.
Oh, that might be tricky. But anyway.
And so what's the big movie, Dave? Because you're the big movie guy. So what's your big tentpole this summer?
So I'm a big comic book guy. So I will literally, like Eric Elia, your prior guest, I will literally go to every comic book movie, no matter how stupid.
DC too?
What's that?
You're a DC fan too, or?
I'm indiscriminate, man. I'll even go to like
kidding.
Hellboy. I'll go to Hellboy, which is a comic. Giant piece of crap. Like big monsters, comics. Man, I am your guy. Like all day, all long. The thing that I watched recently on Amazon, which I loved, was Meet. I think it was Meet the Kooples. It was a documentary, Meet the Kooples, Kooples. It's it's the senior citizen set of twin prostitutes in Amsterdam that are in like their 70s, and one of them retired and one of them is still working.
Oh my God.
Like this like sweet but weird documentary about like these women.
It's a documentary.
What's that?
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary. Twin sisters, senior citizens. They've been prostitutes for most of their professional life in Amsterdam's red light district, and it is
amazing,
bizarre, and like kind of oddly sweet. Where it's just like, it's really that struck me recently. And I watched the Mr. Rogers documentary too.
Oh, I didn't watch. Yeah, I'll have to I'm writing these down as a list. Can I just wrap up with one story? Did I ever tell you about the time? So there was a Bright Cove sales conference in Madrid.
Ooh.
No, you were not there.
I was not there. No.
Oh my God. That just me asking shows you what my experiences of it was.
Tell me.
And so we were signing up a big Spanish broadcaster, Telefonica, I believe. Yep. And so I met them. They said, okay, let's go meet on this restaurant. You know, there's a rep there from Spain. I can't remember his name. And they're like, yeah, our offices are right here. And in Spain, like, let's go meet at 6:00 at night and have drinks before dinner. And so we go into this outside bar outside their offices. And on that street is a street that is just for like senior citizen guys picking up. So 75-year-old guys picking up 60-year-old hookers. Over and over again, like just constantly.
God bless him. That is. There was a point in time when I was little.
By the way, it's getting the explicit label because I have.
No, that's fair. There was a time when I was a kid where I was like, when I remember thinking, do my grandparents still have sex? And I'm like, there's no way
That's terrible.
There's no way anyone over 70 still does anything.
Bob Kraft went back twice in 12 hours, right? So anyways, this is terrible. I'm going to stop talking right now.
Great. This has been fantastic.
Hold on 1 second. So